You were both in Skull and Bones, the secret society.
It's so secret we can't talk about it.
What does that mean for America? The conspiracy theorists are going to go wild.
I'm sure they are. I don't know. I haven't seen the web.
Number 322.
Buckle your seatbelt. It's time for another episode of the Prepper Recon Podcast. Our individual first aid kits are now on sale. They're MOLLE-compatible pouches in Coyote, ACU, OD, or Black. They're equipped with an Israeli battle dressing, quick clot, TK4 tourniquet, suture kit, and lots of extras. It's perfect for your car, bug-out bag, or home first aid kit. Go to the PrepperRecon.com homepage and click on the IFAC store tab at the top of the page. They're on sale for $89, and that includes shipping. This kit could save your life. Hey, Preppers and Patriots. This is a rebroadcast of the Rational Survivour podcast with Kyle Starkey. Southern Prepper 1, also known as David Kobler, and I were both on the show talking about retreat security and small unit tactics, so enjoy the show.
Okay, so I got Mark and David on the line here from Prepper Recon and Southern Prepper 1, as most of you will probably know them as. And I just figured I'd jump right into the conflicted card game with Mark and David, see how they respond. So, you guys ready for the conflicted card game?
Oh yeah, I love conflicted.
Awesome. So, describe how you would approach other survival groups after a collapse. And that's pretty much it for the card.
I'll let David go first.
Well, that's a tricky question because I don't want to get shot. So, really, I would approach them very carefully. I would approach them with some strength, but not overly strong, with everyone looking like we're looking for a fight. I would try to approach them, if we could, on neutral territory. So if I know they travel outside of their retreat, I would try to confront them there and make first contact, tell them who I am. I wouldn't want to come up to their gate because I don't know who they are. They could be very bad. They could be looking to do me harm. So I would try to confront them the first time on neutral ground if I knew they were going to get supplies or going on a patrol, and make contact for the first time that way.
Oh, it's through like one of their patrol units, like an outreach kind of? That's it, okay.
Yeah,
and,
I would, if I knew there was a group, I'd put them under observation and see what they do.
Okay, awesome. And Mark?
Yeah, I think that was a great answer, especially if you don't know anybody in the other group and you have you don't know anything about them other than than maybe what you've observed. Maybe the only thing I would do is add is if there was a way to put them under observation without really being found out, and see if they appear to be more geared towards a friendly type people, or if they appear hostile. Yeah,
definitely. And actually, I have so I mentioned I had a card I actually just recorded this morning for today's show, for yesterday, or you guys. So I'm trying to talk past tense for listeners, but I mentioned reaching out. They were talking about creating networks now in this other card that I played yesterday, and I was wondering. I mentioned like finding smaller groups rather, so you don't go up against rivals, and so you could help them out. You be the stronger guys. What do you guys think of that? Is that smart? Did I say that smart? Or
yeah, I think that's fantastic. Anything you can do now to that you're not going to have to do after the collapse is better. And I think definitely forming relationships with other preppers and potentially even other prepper groups is a fantastic idea to do now when the stakes are so much lower, and and you can kind of feel them out and find out if they're going to be somebody you want to have a relationship with after a collapse.
You're right, and then or put your guard up and just know ahead of time. You can do what all job interview people do now is search their social media, see where they stand. I just thought of that right now. That would be another way you can check them out. Okay, well, awesome. Thanks for playing. It's one of my favorite segments of the show. So I'd like to get a little bit more about you guys. Mark, you do great interviews, but it's rare that I get to catch your side. So I I like to ask questions about like prep, like where you guys are at or what you guys have been working on in prepping lately. So if you don't mind telling me a little bit about what you've been going on. I love your news, your speeches that you come out with, that you do in the pre-recording and all that. It's very cool. So if you want to jump into that a little bit on where you come from on all this stuff.
Sure. What I've been I'll answer first what I've been working on personally to prep. And I've mentioned it a few times in several of the recent shows that I live in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, which is sort of like zombie apocalypse territory. And so my big move right now has been trying to get my home ready to be able to sell it and get the best price for it so that we can relocate to a more lightly populated area. We've kind of got all the beans, bullets, and Band-Aids and all that kind of stuff pretty well covered for living in an urban area. But what we need to do is really try to get to a place that's going to be more sustainable. And it's not even really about the coming collapse. It's more about the collapse that's already happened because, after the housing bubble,
right.
Broward County went through such a hard time with revenue streams because when housing values go down, then the revenue stream for the county goes down. So they've had to cut massive amounts of teachers, massive amounts of sheriff's deputies, and so the criminals are there. They get to be more brazen when they know that there's less cops out there to catch them. They've got a better chance of getting away with things. So it's just becoming a more and more dangerous place. In fact, on Memorial Day, they had to close down the beach in Fort Lauderdale because there was gang fights on the beach, and so they had Broward County Sheriff's Office and the Fort Lauderdale Police Department had to shut down A1A. They were out there with a mobile command unit, full riot gear. They had 50 patrol cars on A1A, and it was an absolute mess. So if anybody's looking for a really, really well done house, we've got everything pretty much remodeled here, and it'll be the perfect place to film the zombie apocalypse when it finally happens. So shoot me an email if you've got a death wish and you want to live in this area.
I have to tell you, my mom's been trying to convince me to move to Fort Myers.
Oh yeah. Well, that's much better than Fort. It's still a pretty populated area, but it's much better than Fort Lauderdale.
Is it?
Absolutely.
Well, that's a little bit of relief because she's pushing hard. I'm like, no, I don't know. But Denver's man, that place is getting expensive. It's like the new San Diego. But where do you find all your speeches and stuff? That's one of my main. I was like, that's my personal question to you. Is like, what are your news sources?
Well, my news sources, I like Vice News. They put out good stuff. We don't have cable. We cut it because there's really nothing on, and just regular television with the antenna. There's nothing on, but at least it's free. But to pay for nothing is, kind of goes against a lot of my standards. So we got the Roku box, which is like, I think it's like $75, $69, $70, something like that. And you hook that up to your TV, and you can send stuff from YouTube to the Roku box. So I watch a lot of stuff from YouTube, and it's got some good news channels on it that we don't have here in America. It's got and a lot of them are left leaning, like Al Jazeera, which is I'm sure very geared towards the Muslim world, and then it's got CNN International, which is also very liberal, and I don't necessarily agree with most of these news stations politically. RT tends to have a lot of the sort of libertarian folks on there, and so it's probably closer to my political views, but it's owned and operated by Russia. So you got to wonder if they're like giving you what you want 95% of the time, so that you won't be paying attention when they slip that other 5% in there when you're not looking. Okay. So
my favorite is Breaking the Set on there. That that one's pretty good on there. But go on. Sorry.
But but you know, it's like everything else. You eat the grapes and spit out the seeds. So
awesome.
So you know, so I like that. I like getting all the international news channels from the Roku box, and then Vice News does a great show, and then on YouTube there's News in 2 Minutes, which is really good, and they cover a lot of stuff that you won't see on television. And then for the speeches and stuff like that, I get all that from YouTube by my Ron Paul speeches, because you can just search Ron Paul, and then if you want to look for speeches that were done in the last year, then you can filter that out on YouTube, and then we'll send all that stuff over to the Roku box and watch it on television. And then when I hear something that sounds inspiring, you know, sometimes I'll use that for a show intro.
Nice. There, and you know, it's funny because he had such a good, I mean bad, but he had such a strong slander campaign against him. But everything I hear him say, Ron Paul, everything I hear him say is just brilliance. You know, it's like well thought out. And I mean, there's a couple things I might disagree with, but it's thought out. You can't argue with it, you know. And he had such a slander. Whereas lately, I've been watching Hillary Clinton is just getting so much promotion stuff, and she has said some evil stuff, and that scares me. And it's just so random. Like, see how the medias are favoring, you know. So very cool. Thanks for that. I'm actually going to be looking into that box that for myself here, because we also cut the ties. So David, if you don't mind, if you put out some educational videos. Your firefighter series that you just did was really good. I appreciate that. I'm looking for Homestead stuff myself lately. But where do you come up with your scenarios? Because it seems like you run through the drills. Where do you come up with those ideas?
Are you talking about the scenario videos?
Yeah, the ones that you come out with. Yeah.
Correct. And basically, I'm just trying to put people in a situation, if there was no grid, no authority, if things have collapsed, and just to give them ideas how life would be without all the comforts of life, and just give them a scenario and have them try to think through how would I react if I was short on food or if I had bad neighbors. Just to get people thinking. I think prepping is a mind game, so you gotta conquer it first with the mind. And you know, it's not all about storing food and putting things back. It's about your mindset.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I have to say, you one, I love your retreat. Your place looks great. But your spot check video on your brother was hysterical, because I would do that to mine in a heartbeat. You know, it seemed like some brother love there. So it was pretty funny to watch for me.
Awesome.
And then also I saw you had one of your videos, you had rabbit cages in the background, and you mentioned trying to get rid of them. I never saw any videos. I did actually try to search for them, but I didn't see any videos on you raising rabbits. Did you get rid of them? Did you not like them? Did you stop?
No, I have some videos on my rabbits. I didn't do a lot of videos on how to raise rabbits, just because there's so many people that's all they concentrate on.
Right.
And I would call them subject matter experts. So there's a lot of YouTube videos on raising rabbits. But I did get rid of my rabbits. Eventually I'll go back into them. If something in prepping becomes boring or you don't like it, always, you know, stop doing it and do something else.
Yeah. And so it was just too much time, or just got boring for you?
It was a little bit of both. I was trying to work on some other projects. So, you know, by getting rid of the rabbits, that freed me up. Another thing is, if you have rabbits, a lot of people think they're you know, I'm prepared, I'm self-sufficient, but they go to the store every week and buy rabbit food. And that's what I was doing. So I was like, this is not totally sustainable. So let me concentrate on my chickens and the free ranging, and then eventually come back to the rabbits and get a plan so I could be sustainable 100% without going to the feed store.
Okay. Yeah. There's a guy, Joel Satan. Thank you. Goodness, I can never remember. So his son did rabbits that live on grass now. So he had to do some culling, you know. And I was like, man, I wonder if he's going to sell breeding pairs, because those rabbits are completely sustainable on growing on your yard grass. And so that's just something I was toying with too. I was just wondering if you had a hate story for rabbits or not, because I was like, that's my That's like my homestead animal of choice right now. I want to get into it. So both of you are influences on my preps. I have to say, you guys put out good stuff, so I follow it. And but I know a big influence for you guys is the Bible. Can you guys give me a Bible verse related to prepping? Mark, maybe if you can give me one of your favorite ones that get you in the prepping stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's a great question, because in the Christian community, you'll hear a lot of people that think that prepping's not it's not godly, it's not a Christian thing to do, because you should be trusting God. But these same people have car insurance because they're not trusting God for taking care of the ticket when they get pulled over with no car insurance, and they're not trusting Him for having a car wreck, and they're not trusting Him for if their house burns down, they've got fire insurance, and they've got health insurance in case they get sick. But all of a sudden, when it comes to having a couple of months worth of food put away, or buying some silver and gold to diversify their savings, all of a sudden it's not trusting God if you do that kind of stuff. But the Bible's very, very clear on the matter. In Proverbs 22:3, it says, "A prudent man sees danger and takes refuge, but the simple keep going and suffer for it." So I think that's just the sort of the perfect prepper verse right there.
That is some serious wisdom. And so, David, do you have one as well?
Yeah, he stole mine, but that's okay. And that probably just shows you that that's a very important verse. Probably what else I would say, though, is just look at Noah. It's not a verse in the Bible, but Noah built an ark. He did what God said. He put things back. And that's what sort of preppers are doing. Some of us feel that we're called to do this, and just follow that calling and do the best you can. And Noah, did it for his family, but he tried to help as many people by warning them, and people did take the warning.
Yeah, there's the original the original prepper there. Yeah, so I don't know if you saw the movie or not yet, but it was kind of a miss. Good cinema, but bad. I think it missed a little bit on some things. I don't know if you saw the Noah movie yet.
No, I missed it because I'm from what I know about it, from what I've heard, it's not at all accurate as according to the biblical the actual biblical account. And I kind of anticipated that I might be stealing David's verse on that, so I did have a backup one just in case. And so maybe for David, we could give him Proverbs 21:20 says, "In the house of the wise are stores of choice food and oil, but a foolish man devours all he has." So, I mean, that kind of gets into prepping, and it also, and I think, and my degree is in accounting, so, I'm really big into financial preparedness as well, which I think that verse sort of speaks to living on less than you make and always putting something aside for later, which is not an example that's commonly set by our government, and they don't really teach it in schools. But I think that's a great piece of wisdom as well.
It almost feels like they're teaching the opposite. Yeah, my face was cringing for that movie too, just the one I was telling you about. I just wanted to see what you guys thought. I was like, I don't know if I should bring that. That was a bad movie. So bad movie reference, and awesome. That's very. I mean, just strong wisdom on the Bible verse. It's just So we actually got through my little segment there about you guys. Do you mind telling us about the book, Retreat Security and Small Unit Tactics?
Yeah, I'll let David take that one.
Basically, the book is written for the average guy. Taking my skills, and Mark was just perfect. He just made it sound for anybody can read it. The layman can just read that book and understand it. So it's not like reading an FM manual. It's basically going to walk you through what you need to do with yourself, what you need to do with your neighbors to organize, to protect your neighborhood or your subdivision. So it's written so the average person can read it and say, hey, you know what, I can do this. This isn't that complicated. And that's what it's written for, the average guy out there, not for that Army Ranger. But, if the Army Ranger's there and he has people in his group, it's good to give them to him. Give it to the people that, are not trained. They might not be interested in right now, but you can quickly read that book and that would help build your security team off that book.
Oh, definitely. And it seems that you guys definitely are filling a hole in the book collections out there. Because the FM manuals are dry. One, let's just put you to sleep. If you want to take a good nap, you can start reading the Ranger manual. And then, but like you guys, there's no beginning, there's no middle ground for just people like ourselves right now. And I think this book could take fills a huge hole in that area from what Mark sent me. It's pretty awesome, actually, I have to say. So, and it fills that. So, where did you guys how did you guys come to partnering on this? Like, how did you come up with the idea?
We met at the Life Changes Be Ready Expo in Lakeland, Florida, and that was last November. Jim and Cindy Thompson, who also put together the recent Summer of Survival online expo, they put on the Life Changes Be Ready Expo in Lakeland last November, and David and I met there, and after that I had David on the show a couple of times, and I had used some of his Minutemen videos for reference for some of my fiction books. So So I told him, this is such great information, and folks that have never been in the military, that are preppers, that may need this information someday, unfortunately, if the internet ever goes down, if we ever have a grid down scenario, they're not going to have access to that information anymore. Why don't you put that into a book? And David just sort of let me know that he wasn't familiar with the publishing process, and it's kind of like anything else. There's a huge learning curve with figuring out how everything works with Amazon, and finding editors, and finding and formatting the book, the interior layout of the book, and figuring out there's a lot of stuff to learn. So I offered to co-author it with him, and everything just kind of fell together from there.
Oh, that's awesome. So David, you in the book there was a couple of times you mentioned without rule of law or RAL. And I know you do videos on this as well, but do you ever worry about excessive rule of law, like police state stuff? Do you ever get nervous about that, or worry that into your preps, or would that be how is that? Oh, go ahead.
It definitely is a concern of mine. Definitely is a concern. With a police state, they might look at preppers, they might look at our supplies in a bad situation, confiscate them, try to redistribute our supplies to more people. The heavy-handedness of government is, you can see it every day. If you look at all the agencies and how many individual SWAT teams, why does the Food and Drug Administration need a SWAT team? Why does IRS need a SWAT team? That does concern me, just as much as having no law and order. You still have your constitutional rights being trampled on. It doesn't matter if there's no law and order and there's gangs, or if there's a federal agency that's acting more like a gang.
Yeah, and it kind of, and I think the preps are pretty much the same, either with or without. At that point, I would almost assume, for when things are already going that way. There's a whole chapter on fireproofing, or getting ready for defending against fires. Can you explain why that was important and how you put that in there?
Yeah, we put that in there definitely because fire can be a problem. If you start living in a grid-down situation, you're going to be cooking more with primitive means. You might be using your wood stove or your fireplace more. You're going to be using candles, lanterns. All these things can cause fire. If there's no 911 for police protection, there's going to be no 911 for fire protection. So you're going to be on your own for a fire. If you think back in early warfare, what did other people do to the castle? They tried to start the enemy's castle on fire. They used fire as a weapon. So that the accidents can happen, but you could have people out there purposely starting fires so they could take advantage of you. So you need to be prepared. Most preppers do not have a fire protection plan at all.
Yeah, that is another big hole too, especially. And there's also one of my favorite chapters that you guys, from what I saw, what's sent over, is gearing up for the patrol. You go into detail on full full battle dress, and one of them was body armor. Can you tell me the difference between steel and ceramic, and the importance or behind all that?
David, you want to take that one, David?
Yeah, take that one, Mark.
The steel body armor can sustain multiple rounds, whereas a ceramic plate, after depending on the size of the round and velocity and the different things that can affect it, is going to get cracked eventually, and it's going to fail. Also, one of the things that David pointed out to me when we were writing the book is that a ceramic plate could have been dropped. You don't really know, and it could already have small fissures in it that are going to cause it to fail more rapidly than it would if it didn't have those fissures in it. And you would never really be able to know without running that through, some sort of an X-ray or MRI or something like that to actually check it for the fissures. So I think the steel body armor is a little heavier, but if you're looking for something that's going to stop multiple rounds, I think the steel is what you want to have. And then also another problem you have with the steel is that when the bullet hits the steel, it'll fragment, and it can shoot up and hit you underneath your chin and actually follow all the way through to your brain, or it can shoot to the sides, hitting your arms or legs, or it can even hit somebody that's on one of your team members that's fighting next to you. So it's worth it to go the few extra bucks and get the anti-spraw coating on the steel plates. And if you don't mind, I'll and I'm not really getting anything extra out of it, but I just think it's a great deal.
For sure.
Katie Armor, which they are a Prepper Recon sponsor, and if you go to my site, there's a coupon code on Prepper Recon for 10% off. But they ship free front plate, 2 side plates, and a rear plate for $200, and that's with the anti-spraw coating, and that's AR 500 steel, which has been proven over and over to stop rounds up to 308.
Wow. So so the real, the difference in the best thing you can do with ceramic is just you're saving on weight a little bit. Like, it seems like, even, I did 5 years in the Navy and we didn't treat any gear nice. So, I couldn't imagine ceramic lasting that long in a prepper household, unless you're babying it most of the time. It seems like steel would be the direction to go. Is that your conclusion too on all that, or?
Yes, steel is the answer for preppers. Now, if you were in law enforcement, you were wearing it every day, and you had a supply chain, so if you did drop it, it did have a problem, you just get a new one, definitely the ceramic would be the way to go. But for preppers that we might have to buy that, and we only use it occasionally for training, and we just use it if the world comes doing that, I would go with steel for sure.
Okay, awesome. Awesome to know. And so just to give you a little bit of story on myself, there's also eye protection. I see you have them on all your pictures and in your videos. David, I see you with eye protection. And when I was back home, probably a year ago, my dog, when it turned into, I call it Shiba mode. I have Shiba Inus, and they're crazy animals. And they did one just took off into the night. And these are my old stomping grounds. I used to run through the woods at night in these area. I was not, I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't didn't even grab a flashlight because it's like these are my own stomping grounds. And I poked my eye on a branch and almost lost my eye. And they had to go in and pull a sliver out. And I just wanted to stress the eye protection part. I have to wear glasses now because of it. And so I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. And then also and then there's also a mention in camouflage, and you go into blend. You mentioned showing strength as a unit. There's also the blend in theory in prepping. Is there a difference, or do you know which one would be more important to you, or when you'd want to pick one or over the other, showing strength with camouflage or blending in with civilians?
And David's done a couple of great videos on that, so I'll let him take that question.
Okay.
It really would vary. Say you're going to go into town and get some supplies, and you want to blend in. You definitely don't, pack out tactical. You would still take ammunition. You'd take magazines. You'd take, some firepower, but you wouldn't look like you're a military unit. Now, there might be an occasion where you want people to think that you guys are big and bad, strong, so people won't mess with you. And you might want to go into town with body armor, and do your business that way. So you have to understand people. You have to understand your surroundings and try to figure out, what should I do? Should I be the gray man, blend in, or should we go in there looking like we're the baddest guys on the block so people won't mess with us? And that just gets back to reading people, making sure you can read your community and getting intel from your community. So it's a lot to think about, but you need to be able to go gray man and quickly go over to the very hardcore looking tactical group. And by looking the same, if you had all the same body armor, if you had all the same firearms, you were dressed in the same camouflage equipment, you will look more professional, and you will probably have less problems than if you go in there just all ragtag, not looking professional.
Yeah, and it probably actually get you how we talked a little bit earlier about these other reaching out to other groups. That'd probably help a lot too. If you showed that you guys were that well put together, then they'd probably be more willing to work with you too, I think. That's just, yeah. So
Definitely.
And then also in the book, you do mention like assault. I might be using the wrong terminology, but like battle dress or assault bag. Can you explain the difference between that and a bug out bag? Your assault loadout, or oh goodness, I'm thinking the wrong terms right now.
No, I think you're pretty close. Yeah, the bug out bag that's what you need to always have ready in case you have to leave your residence in a hurry. And in that, you want the things that you need to sustain life basically for 72 hours. So you need a little medical kit in there. There's going to be some crossover between the bug out bag and the assault pack, but there's going to be a lot more stuff in the bug out bag because that's set up for 72 hours. You're going to need things like shelter, 3 days worth of food. You probably won't want to carry 3 days worth of water, but you're going to have some means of purifying enough water for 3 days, and you might have some extra socks and maybe a jacket and a few other things like that, some sources to build fire and all that kind of thing. Your assault bag is really what you need to complete whatever the mission is. So if you have a 4-hour patrol, you need the things in there that you need to get you through a 4-hour patrol. You might have some, a little extra ammunition, some water. You might have like a snack bar or something like that. If you're going on a recon mission, then your assault pack's going to have things like your binoculars and things like that. If you're going on a little bit longer patrol, maybe a 12-hour patrol, you might have a couple of MREs in there, and and I do always recommend keeping some means of purifying water in your assault bag, because you never know when you're going to get cut off from your group, and your mission is going to turn into an escape and evasion mission. So you might want to have a few things in there, a small survival kit in there to get you a little bit longer than whatever your mission was intended to be, just in case things go wrong, because things do always go wrong. And that's the basic difference between your assault bag and your bug out bag. And you can have even your assault bag connected to your bug out bag. It can even be sort of hanging off the back in case you have to detach it and get engaged in a firefight or something.
Yeah, and as long as I just that was and I feel like we have in the prepper niche, like it's you need like 3 different bags, and one of them's but they can all be intermingled and all that. So I was just wanting to see what you guys thought of the different types there. And then so I do appreciate you guys putting your own images, all of yours truly, Southern Prepper One, David, right? It's very cool to see all those in there. It's greatly appreciated. Over the same military manuals that you see day in and day out on most of these. So that was really cool. And then I wanted to bring up the standard operating procedure that you have in there. Personally, I've tried to put some together, and it's like it's like that old image where you see me crumpling up a paper and throwing it to the basket and going, oh, and then by the end of the day, I just have a full basket rather than any standard operating procedure. You put together a pretty good outline, a good starting point. Now everyone's going to have to put together their own. Can you go over your process a little bit on the standard operating procedure that your pretty much your binder printout for how to put those together?
Yeah, that was just a very slight sample. Any prepper group needs an SOP to cover everything from food storage to how you're going to get to your bug out location, to your SOP on what goes in your bug out bag. So that SOP could be a full book. I wrote a few in the military, and you really write them for a platoon level down to a squad level. So just so people know what to do in an emergency.
Okay. And what are some like the information that you want to make sure is included on it? Like just like an overview of what would you want to make sure is there? Like the format and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the format is just think of every task you might need to do in a grid down situation. And so if you have a task, what is the way we're going to get that task accomplished? So people know how to do it. And it could be simple. I'm going to drive 10 miles and get supplies from the local store. It's not like we're just going to jump in the car and drive. We're going to have a plan to do that. You know, are we going to worry about security, communication, who's going with us, who's in charge? So it's going to be a military mission where you're going to go on.
Okay, so yeah, it's a well thought out plan, like what roads we're taking, what the loadout should be.
Route, everything.
Okay.
You just don't jump in the vehicle and drive. You have a thought out plan, and you might actually do a rehearsal the day before. Load the vehicle. Talk through the route we're going to take. So that way you lessen your chances of a surprise that could get somebody hurt or killed.
Okay. Well, that's I think that's one thing a lot of people struggle with in trying to put some together, myself included, because I have a few binders, but none of them are actually I crumple up, and this book has a great starting point for preppers to get started, and that's one of my favorite parts of it. For sure, I think that's worth the price of the book alone, just to get started in that standard operating procedure. So I thought that was very cool. So I, as a rational survivor, I kind of run the show on a motto of, what are your preps doing for you? Are you prepping to be poor? Are you preparing to prosper? And I always like bringing up the business side of prepping, very independent and self-sustaining stuff. And I always like asking you guys what you guys have going on. And Mark, I just want to start with you. You're no stranger to writing books. So I was just curious what your routine is for writing, or your daily routine, and how you get so many written. I'll put it that way.
Well, I like I said, I listen to a lot of alternative news sites and a lot of interviews of people that are sort of in alternative economics. I like listen anytime I hear John Williams on a show. I like to listen to him, or Doug Casey, or John Rubino. These guys that really stay plugged into the economic side of what's going on. And I'll go ahead and admit that I'm somewhat of an Alex Jones fan. I think that sometimes his delivery's a little bit over the top, but everything that he's predicted, 10 years ago when he was saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a police state," everybody was sort of laughing at him. But now 10 years later, after we've seen gun confiscation after Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana, after we saw warrantless house-to-house searches in Watertown after the Boston bombing, when they were looking for one 19-year-old kid, and they're running 60 and 70-year-old people out into the street with their hands on their heads at gunpoint, and then frisking them at the end of the block, all of those conspiracy theories are coming true. So it makes you wonder, what else has he gotten right? So I think that listening to him and being a little bit dismissive of him 10 years ago, I probably owe him an apology. So Alex, if you're listening, I'm sorry, you were right. But I think that listening to those types of things, and then listening to all of the people that like John Rubino and Peter Schiff, who predicted the 2008 housing bubble and the calamities that we almost saw from that, to hear them saying that what's coming in the future is going to be much, much worse than what we had to deal with in 2008. I just sort of look at all of those headlines and listen to all those that news and commentary and project those ideas just very shortly into the future, and the stories sort of write themselves for me. And like I said, I'm a big audiobook fan and podcast fan, so I sort of have this audiobook playing in my head, and I just start typing that out, and that's basically the process. But most of the I'm not that creative. Most of the stuff is already there. It's just kind of projecting today's headlines very shortly into the future.
Really? Oh, wow. Okay. And so character creation, all that, is that it's very home based, like you would know these people in real life, or is that
Yeah, they're all basically people I know, or loosely, or maybe sometimes not so loosely, based on people that I know.
Okay. And now, so what's the most difficult part of getting the book together for you?
For me, so far, it's been editing. I'm not really a grammar pro myself, and I'm currently on my 4th editor, because I've just not had any luck in finding the person that's able to go through my book and catch all of my mistakes. Fortunately, my wife's got an excellent eye for that, so she's sort of catching the mistakes that are being missed by the editor, and we're doing the best we can between me and her to clean those up. But and so what we end up with is actually a pretty well edited book. But when you pay somebody to do a job, you expect it to be done already, and you don't expect to have your wife that's well, she knows it and she can catch most of it, but then you sort of wonder what she might have missed, and you just don't expect to have to do that. It would be like if you paid somebody to paint your bedroom, and then after they leave and after you pay them, it still needs another coat. So that's really not what you expect. So now that I'm on my 4th editor, I'm hoping that this is going to be the one, and everything's going to be perfect. But I don't know. But it's really been a problem.
Do you and one of the things I have to say is, like, on Amazon, the first thing on all survival niche books is, oh, the editing was terrible. And I'm like, I didn't even notice in that book, and I'm like, I can, as long as I'm still caught in the story, I will skip spelling errors. As long as it's when I get pulled out of the story that then I start noticing those things. But that's like the first thing people argue on Amazon. I'm like, I didn't even notice in this book. But I have to say, for emailing you back, I'm like, oh, he's a writer. That was the first time I've spell checked my emails in probably like 2-3 months. Because I was like, oh shoot, I'm emailing a writer here. I better at least fix some of this. So I had to say I had to do that. And then, what are some other hurdles you have with the book process, publishers, all that? What's your biggest hiccup, I guess?
Well, everything else I've done self-publishing through Amazon, and they make the process really streamlined, and they give you a little template for you to take from your Word document, and there's a little bit of a learning curve with that, and then setting up the interior design and all of that. There's a little bit. It's a new process to learn, but everything else has been pretty streamlined. And then all of my books, I put all my books out in audio, and on my very first book, Kevin Pierce did my very first book, and he's an absolute professional. And unlike the editors that I've had to work with, everything was just perfect the first time. And so he's just finished the production of Retreat Security and Small Unit Tactics, so that'll also be available in audio very soon. But he did all three of the Economic Collapse Chronicles, and he's just got that perfect storyteller voice. And it's just if every business transaction I did in life was as easy and as fluid as what it was with Kevin Pierce, I mean, I would just be life would just be so easy. But I wish I could have that sort of luck with finding an editor. But so that was absolutely a fantastic experience to work with him, and it's a real pleasure to always know that that's one thing that I'm not going to have to worry about every time I write a new book.
That's funny. He's the easy button of audiobook conversion, huh?
That's perfectly said. Yes.
Awesome. And so, David, I have to say you're one of the most popular YouTube channels for prepping. That's pretty given. What did you do to get there? Are you just Can you explain that?
I have no idea what I did. I'm just myself. So I don't really plan my videos out. I don't edit my videos. I probably would edit if I knew how to edit, but I don't. So I put the camera up and I have a point to make, and I make it. And sometimes flies will land on the lens. You actually see them on the film. I'm just myself, just showing people what I'm doing on my property.
Well, you come across as caring, and I think that makes a huge thing as well, a huge difference. And as not a I'm trying to make money gimmick as well. I have to say that's one of my favorite parts about your videos too, and it's definitely appreciated. And you've also done some event speaking, and you've gotten a lot of work through your YouTube channel. I'm assuming that's where it's all coming from. What's on the horizon for you there? Where's that taking you?
Yeah, I'm currently not going to be doing any speaking anytime soon. I'm really trying to finish up my homestead. I'm painting, doing some major improvements here. So right now it's full speed ahead, try to get everything done on my property. And then I'm going to start doing some other things. Think about doing a blog, just to have another way to get information out. A lot of times during the day I have this idea, but I said, should I make a video on it? So if I have like a blog, something where I can just throw something up, I think that would be helpful.
And yeah, definitely. And what was that would kind of roll into the next question is what was the most difficult part about book writing for you, like writing this book for you?
Working with Mark, there was really nothing difficult. He makes it really easy because he's wrote books before. He knows how to get things done. If I had to do it by myself, I'd probably have all my hair pulled out at this present moment. Probably would have thrown it in the garbage. But Mark makes it real easy because he knows what he's doing. So we work good together. I'm looking forward to our next book together for sure.
Oh, awesome! And so you do see some books in the near future for you?
Definitely. I'm actually spent about an hour or two this morning outside on the front porch, just taking down some notes. So definitely another book.
Oh, that's awesome. That's good to hear. I, for one, am excited to get those as well. So that's and then also I have one more question for you. If I didn't bring it up to you, so I can edit this part out or whatever. But you were on. Did you do the Doomsday Prepper rating stuff?
Yes, I was on the pilot show of Doomsday Prepper, and then I did the consulting for season 1 and 2.
Okay.
It was fun, but it got to a point where I was trying to actually teach people things, and they were just trying to do entertainment value. So, we butted heads on a few things, and that way I parted ways at season 3.
Okay, and it seems to be all the survival shows are seeming to be parting ways with their popular hosts right now. Like even the Cody London and all that stuff too, So
they're for entertainment and for making money, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I just want to teach people how to prepare in a sensible way.
Yeah, and okay, well, those are pretty much my Rational Survivor questions for you guys. How are you guys taking your preps to the next level for prosperity for you? You guys are two of my big favorite, I don't know, even influences. I don't even know what I'd call you guys in the survival niche. You guys definitely fill my feed. And it's definitely, I spend a lot of time. It's weird. It's kind of creepy for me to be like, yeah, you guys, I know so much about you guys, and you're like, who is this guy interviewing me? So it's weird for me. Very excited to have you guys on the podcast. Do you guys mind sending us on our way with my slogan?
Absolutely, no problem at all. This is Mark.
No problem. And this is David saying,
are you prepping to be poor?
Prepping to be poor, or are you preparing to prosper?
And then also as a quick note, Kyle, for your listeners, anybody that wants to go over to prepperrecon.com, if they go to the store, if they purchase any of the either tactical conceal carry EDC tactical slings that we have there, or individual first aid kits, or the backpack, I'll give them a free autographed by me copy of Retreat Security and Small Unit Tactics. All they have to do is when they're checking out through PayPal, click the little Note to Seller button and put in Rational. And if they put in Rational, then they'll automatically get a free copy of Retreat Security and Small Unit Tactics.
I am heading there right now as you were telling me that.
In American Reset, the final chapter of the Economic Collapse Chronicles, the ultimate contest between liberty and tyranny reaches the apex. The Bear family and their neighbors learn the true value of community as they rely on each other to survive the war and the effects of the financial meltdown. Will the collapse bring an oppressive regime that enslaves the American people, or will the patriots prevail and guide the country back to a place of freedom, peace, and prosperity? Get your copy of American Reset in Kindle, paperback, or audio edition at Amazon.com today.